Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Brittany, and I want to welcome you all to the Unleashing the Power of System Center 2012 R2 using Product Integration webinar. First, we'll talk about a couple optimization tools, then I'll introduce our speaker, Jerome Jones, and he'll take over and give his presentation. We will then have Brian Long talk about Quick Start and show some of our System Center classes that we offer, and we'll have Q&A for any questions you might have for Jerome or Brian. We will have a closing survey that will be emailed to you by Tuesday. Once you fill out the survey, you'll receive the recording of this webinar. Like I said, the webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you after you take the survey. To optimize your experience during the webinar, feel free to ask questions by clicking on the message icon and typing in the box at the bottom left. Jerome will answer any questions at the end during Q&A. If you don't want to see the chat section, go ahead and click the X at the top of the message box, and you can review the screen and presentation in full screen by clicking the icon at the bottom right. I'll now hand it over to Jerome, and he'll give his presentation on System Center.
Good morning, everyone. How are you guys? I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope you guys can see my screen. I've shared it out to you. I am really excited about presenting this webinar to you guys. And the reason is I have to go ahead and admit to you that I've supported Microsoft products for 19 years. So I drink the Kool-Aid every morning. Okay, so when I talk about these products, I mean I'm all in when it comes to the Microsoft products. And to give you an idea of what you actually have in front of you, especially for those of you who've already purchased System Center, you have a very powerful tool in front of you. And I just in teaching, like I said, I've supported this product. The System Center part of it, as far as Configuration Manager, I've supported it ever since pretty much SMS 2.0, and the Operations Manager ever since MOMS 2005. But since I've been supporting the System Center 2007 and 2012 System Center, I've discovered that the majority of the companies who've actually purchased this product are not using it to its fullest potential. And that's what the basis of this webinar is going to be today, is to kind of show you guys more or less what you're missing out on by not using the integration packs that come with System Center 2012. Now, a brief history of System Center. Microsoft released the very first product that eventually became a part of System Center back in 1994 when they released SMS 2.0, 1.0. And so I thought about it. I'm like, wow, this product, SMS, Systems Management Systems, has been around for 20 years. And throughout the years, in 2000, Microsoft added monitoring with MOMS, Microsoft Operations Management tool. And then in 2005, they added the backup and recovery tool with Data Protection Manager. And in 2007, Microsoft first released System Center. And then they added additional like Virtual Machine Manager in 2007, along with Operations Manager, Configurations Manager, System Center Essentials, but they were all separate products. When you purchase them, when you purchase the license for them, you purchase them as separate products. Well, in 2009, Microsoft acquired this IT process automation tool called Opalus. And they've since renamed Opalus to Orchestrator. And then also in 2010, Microsoft created their own from scratch using ITIL and MOF principles Service Manager to be sort of a help desk management tool. And they packaged it all in System Center 2012 and decided to, whenever they sold it, to sell it as a suite as opposed to individual products, which it was available before. And it was kind of on the pricey end. So companies would either buy the configuration manager part or the operations manager part, but only larger companies bought all of it. Now, with 2012, when you purchase the licensing for System Center 2012, you get all of the products. There are 8 products that actually come with System Center, from System Center App Controller to System Center Virtual Machine Manager, Orchestrator, Configuration Manager, Advisor, Data Protection Manager, Operations Manager, and Service Manager. And my bet right now, I mean, I'm laying even money or 10 to 1 that the majority of you guys, if you purchase System Center Configuration Manager or Operations Manager, you're only using just one or a couple of the products. You're not using the entire System Center suite. So I'm going to just talk about some of the things that you're missing out on by not using some of the other portions of this particular suite and integrating them all together. Now, there are 4 main topics that I'm going to look at over the next 30 minutes. One would be the Service Manager integration. Then I'll look at and talk about the Data Protection Manager integration, the Virtual Machine Manager integration, and finally the Orchestrator integration. The reason I'm not going to talk as much about the Configuration Manager integration and the Ops Manager or Operations Manager integration, because typically companies are using that product already. I mean, when you purchase System Center, you're purchasing it for one of those 2 reasons: to install Configuration Manager, for doing hardware software inventory, deploying your applications, or deploying your OS, or you're using Operations Manager to monitor all the different servers and applications in your particular infrastructure. Now, there are integration packs for those also, and I will mention them as we go along, but as far as just any in-depth discussion about the Operations Manager and the Configuration Manager portion, I'm going to omit that. Now, when we look at Service Manager, and as I mentioned before, Service Manager, Microsoft introduced Service Manager back in 2010, and it was just a way to standardize your data center processing best practices, because what Service Manager does, although it is like a help desk management tool, it also allows you to do change management, service management when it comes to requesting services, incident management, and problem management. And it also does release management and service level management. So whenever you or if you decide to use Service Manager, as I mentioned, it's a way for you to manage and automate the process that you may have adopted based on Microsoft's official framework, Moth, or ITIL version 3. Now, some of the things that you can do with Service Manager, if you decide to use Service Manager, one is incident management. Anytime there's any kind of unplanned downtime, then pretty much you can actually use the console of Service Manager to open up a service ticket and assign that service ticket to one of your help desk staff. You also have the ability to do problem management. Now, a problem is just considered as multiple incidents. And whenever you do problem management, basically you would create a problem record that details all the different problems that are related to the computers and the servers that are being monitored. With change management allows you to do a process, and as long as you follow this or define a process, as long as you follow this process that you've defined, then whenever you implement any kind of change in your particular infrastructure, it's going to be the same you go through those same steps, whether it's procurement of your applications or services, whether it's your risk assessment, the people who have to sign off. So whenever you implement change management, basically that change request just goes all the way up the ladder that you defined, and then you're able to, at the end, when you got all the signatures, implement that particular change. Now with release management, same thing. Release management is close to change management. Whenever you upgrade an application that involves changes to your infrastructure, like testing and preparing your production environment, upgrading your clients and servers, you can actually create a release management ticket. You also have service level management and service request fulfillment, and a self-service portal inside Service Manager. And what this allows you to do, a user can request resources. They can request maybe that, okay, well, my mouse, I need a new mouse. And that request will actually be assigned to a help desk staff. So it's not so much that you're waiting on an incident to happen. Your users can actually use the self-service portal to request services. Now, Service Manager really integrates with all of the other products. It integrates with Configuration Manager, Operations Manager, Orchestrator, Virtual Machine Manager, and Active Directory. And this integration is made available via connections. And once you create these connectors for your connector for Configuration Manager, then all of your discovered inventory will be pulled over from Configuration Manager into Service Manager. When you enable the connector to Active Directory, your users and your computer objects will be brought over into your Service Manager console, and they'll be brought over as either work items or incidents or problems or changes. The same thing with Operations Manager. When you create the connector to Service Manager and Operations Manager, there are a couple of connectors that you actually have there. One is to connect your alerts, and the other would be to connect your configurable items. So let's look at the Configuration Manager connector. Whenever you implement your Configuration Manager connector, you pull over your hardware, your discovered hardware, your software inventory, and configuration baselines. And it pulls this information in and it stores it in Service Manager. And then Service Manager can use this information to give you detailed information about any of your resources that you're managing. Same thing about the software. When you import this information in about the software, you'll see what software, what applications are installed on these particular systems. And your configuration baselines, you can actually do monitoring of those configuration baselines. And whenever your systems are out of in non-compliance with these configuration baselines, then Service Manager can open up a ticket in the ticket console, the incident management console. The Operations Manager connectors, there are actually two. One synchronizes your alerts with Service Manager incidents, and the other synchronizes any discovered objects into Service Manager. So as a scenario, and I'll give you a grand scenario a little while later when we talk about Orchestrator, but any objects that are discovered in Ops Manager are being monitored in Ops Manager. Anytime alerts are fired in Operations Manager, you can actually open up an incident in Service Manager. Orchestrator. Now, the connector for Orchestrator allows you to create workflows. And the thing about Orchestrator is that Orchestrator is Microsoft's automation application. And you create these runbooks that can monitor services and monitor processes, and it also allows you to do auto remediation. So anything that is scripted that you normally would do VB scripts with or PowerShell scripts, you can actually create these runbooks, and I'll show you an example of a runbook a little later on for this automation. And it could do Pretty much, this is one of the most phenomenal, and I'll talk about Orchestrator, the most phenomenal application that I've seen in recent years. And it actually has a connector with Service Manager, and it actually has templates to where, if you wish, you can actually create a change management or an incident management template from within the Orchestrator console. Virtual Machine Manager, when you actually configure the Virtual Machine Manager connector, that allows you to import virtual machine templates and service templates and storage classifications from Virtual Machine Manager into Service Manager. And you can use these configuration items and work items and change requests within Service Manager. Now, you can also connect Service Manager to applications such as Active Directory. And when you import the Active Directory connector, then that allows you to import objects like users, groups, printers, computers. And typically, this is the first connector that you set up, because once you import these objects from Active Directory into Service Manager, then you can actually go in and set up your Service Manager backend where you assign the users that were discovered in Active Directory as members of the help desk staff, and you'll see different computers that are being managed. So typically, that's the very first connector that you would configure. You also should install some management packs for Service Manager. There are several management packs: the Service Manager Management Server Management Pack, the Health Services Management Pack, the Data Warehouse Management Packs, your Service Manager Workflow Management Packs, and also in Operations Manager, you'll need the management packs for your Windows operating system, IIS, SQL, SharePoint, and this just guarantees the health and performance and availability of those services in Service Manager environment and your Ops Manager environment. Now, whenever you are using Data Protection Manager is an application that is used to back up and restore application and services on your Windows systems. And you can create backup solutions and restore solutions from using Data Protection Manager. And the neat thing about Data Protection Manager, an actual agent runs on a client that you're going to monitor. And once that agent runs on that client that you're going to monitor, then you can actually, it detects any applications and services that are on that managed agent, and you have the ability from your Data Protection Manager console, that DPM console, to start replicating or start backing up those services. Now, as I mentioned, Data Protection Manager allows you to do backup and restores of Windows servers and clients, also Microsoft applications such as Hyper-V, Exchange, SharePoint, SQL. And as I mentioned, whenever, let's just say if I'm protecting a SQL database, whenever a new database is created on that SQL box, it's automatically provided the protection. So Data Protection Manager will, by installing that agent, it'll automatically start backing up that SQL database on a defined schedule that you've defined. Also, you can configure protection for applications and operating systems, file systems, just by creating what's called protection groups. And these protection groups are similar to other data type groups, such as your SQL databases or your Exchange server databases. And you can actually configure from the console any kind of backup schedules that you wish to perform on these particular protection groups. Also, you can use the recovery wizard to recover data in DPM, and the user actually has the ability to perform data recovery by using DPM, and you can enable what's called self-service recovery. And when you enable self-service recovery, it uses volume shadow copy services on the client machine. So by doing that block level backup, you can restore, based on any kind of changes that have actually happened on that particular application or to that particular service. Like a database owner in SQL has the ability, if you enable self-service recovery, to recover their own database without even having to have administrative help. Now, Data Protection Manager is also integrated with all of your other products in System Center. The integration of Data Protection Manager and Operations Manager, this allows you to monitor that DPM database. You install two management packs. There's the System Center Data Protection Management Pack, Discovery Management Pack, and the System Center Data Protection Manager 2012 Library Management Packs. And then once you install these management packs, then you can actually monitor DPM from a central console. And whenever you're monitoring DPM, as you can see in this particular slide, that you have several views. You have alert views, you have your health services view. And from these views, you have state views. I can view the state of my disks that are monitoring. I can view the state of my DPM servers, my protection groups, my tape drives, my protected services. Also, from DPM service tasks, you can perform certain tasks from those particular state views. Like I can run consistency checks on a protection group, I can troubleshoot a protection group, or I can troubleshoot an individual DPM server. There are several user roles in Data Protection Manager also to help you manage and scope out the ability for those to use DPM. You have your DPM read-only operator, your DPM tape admin for those who are doing tape backups, and your recovery operator roles. And you can just give someone full control of DPM console if you wish to. Now, whenever you are configuring integration between DPM and Ops Manager, you should deploy the Ops Manager agent to these servers. After you've deployed the Ops Manager agent, just import the Data Protection Manager management packs into Operations Manager, and then you just install the central console. And whenever you install the central console, you have the option to install the server-side components. Typically, you have to install these components on your Ops Manager management servers, or you can install the client-side components. And you would install these components on any computer where the Ops Manager console is going to be open, like if you have the web console on one of your client machines. Whenever you run through this installation to install the console, a prerequisite check is going to run, and then it'll actually do the installation. Now, whenever you are integrating these components, there's an integration of DPM with Orchestrator, and this provides some automation for you can automatically create or get recovery points, and recovery points is just a backup. So anytime you want to do a backup off schedule, you can just create a recovery point, or you can also do a protection data source. The protect data source activity adds a data source to an existing DPM group. And when you use this along with Service Manager, you can create what's called a service offering that lets a user request on their own a backup of a particular database. You also have the ability, you have objects in Orchestrator that allow you to recover SQL, recover a VM, or recover a SharePoint farm to its original location. Now, whenever you are configuring this integration with Data Protection Manager and Orchestrator, there are three things you have to do. You first have to register the DPM integration pack with Orchestrator, deploy that integration pack to the Orchestrator server, and then configure the connection between Orchestrator and Data Protection Manager. So there's a wizard that actually takes you through these steps, and once you've gone through these steps of putting in the name and the IP address of your or IP address of your DPM server, your Orchestrator server, and the user account, domain, and password, you'll create that integration. Now, another one of the features that you can integrate, people always tell me, oh, well, we use VMware because Hyper-V is, does not compete to VMware. You are exactly right, because that's not Microsoft's competing product with VMware. Microsoft's competing product with VMware is Virtual Machine Manager. And with Virtual Machine Manager, you have the ability to integrate Virtual Machine Manager with your other applications in System Center also. Now, Virtual Machine Manager is Microsoft's virtualization management solution, and it provides support for Hyper-V, VMware ESX, Citrix Zen Server, and you would actually use these Virtual Machine Manager profiles to configure your virtual machines and then deploy either to a guest operating system based on, and there are actually 3 profiles that you can create. You can create a guest profile, a hardware profile, and an application profile. Now, whenever you're creating these guest profiles, those are the operating systems that you want to, the VMs. You can just create a template for Windows Server 2008 or Windows 8 client machine. Under the hardware profiles, that's where you configure how much processor, memory disk, and the network adapter. Under the application profiles, Virtual Machine Manager uses what's called Server App V, which is kind of like the desktop virtualization of App V. And when you use this, then Virtual Machine Manager can deploy web applications that are packaged as part of your Microsoft Web deployment. You can also create SQL Server profiles by using sysprep. You can create an operating system and SQL Server image that includes all of your relevant SQL features. You can do this for your private cloud services. You have the ability to manage resources and virtualization hosts and logical networks and storage in the cloud also. So basically you can put a virtual environment in the cloud. So you're virtualizing a virtual environment. I like that. When you integrate Operations Manager with Virtual Machine Manager, you have the ability to monitor that entire Virtual Machine Manager environment. You can perform VMM tasks from within the Ops console. Some of the things that you can do once you integrate it, which I think is really cool, you can take advantage of what's called Performance and Resource Optimization, or PRO. And with PRO enabled on your management packs, Operations Manager can detect any kind of resource issues, any kind of hardware failures in that virtualized environment. And also, it has what's called Pro Tips. And with Pro Tips, Operations Manager can notify an operator and recommend a strategy for migrating your virtual machines to a different virtualization host in the event that that host machine is performing poorly. And you could do all of this without any of user intervention. Whenever you are configuring the integration between Ops Manager and Virtual Machine Manager, you have to import your SQL and your IIS management packs, install these Operations Console, the Ops Console on those Virtual Machine Manager servers, and then install the agents that you're going to monitor on those VMM servers, and just add your Operations Manager wizard. And that's what you actually use, the Add Operations Manager wizard, to configure this information and integration. And the last topic that I'm going to discuss is the one that I'm probably most excited about, is the Orchestrator integration. And with Orchestrator, this application used to be called Opalis, and Microsoft used Opalis to monitor their Xbox Live systems. And they were so impressed with this particular application that they bought the company, literally. And they renamed it from Opalis to Orchestrator. And the thing about Orchestrator, what it does, and it does a lot, it's the Swiss Army knife of System Center. What it does, it allows you to create processes and workflows that deliver automation and remediation. Things that you would normally script. Let's just say if I wanted to restart a server or restart a service, I can even restart a server, but restart a service, I would script this out and then just run that script to restart a service. Well, I can actually create a run book in Orchestrator that will perform that same task. Or if an error occurred in your Windows server, maybe there was a bug in an application that generated an error in Ops Manager. And until your developer can fix that bug, every time that error happens, you have to go and manually restart that application service. Well, if this doesn't fix the problem, then you may have to go and reboot that server. Well, in an environment where you're doing all of this manually, this could take a long time. Basically, you could restart, who knows, you could restart the wrong service or restart the wrong server, or you don't have a way of tracking this process to know and record every time that you have to reboot this service or reboot this server. Well, in Orchestrator, when you integrate Orchestrator, you can actually configure the automation of all of those tasks. You can actually have that service being monitored or that site being monitored, and whenever there's a delay in a particular service or that bug happens, you can automatically, by using this runbook would automatically reboot that service or that particular server, and it'll also send an alert into Service Manager. You can configure to send an alert into Service Manager. So let's just talk about Orchestrator integration and Orchestrator itself. As I mentioned, Orchestrator just provides process automation, and its primary function is just to provide an automated method of doing manual tasks. Things that you used to script, things that you would put in batch files. Well, now you can actually create runbooks, and you'll have these runbooks running in the back on these runbook servers, and they are monitoring these processes. They are monitoring these services. But it does so much more than that. Once you install these integration packs, then you can actually integrate Orchestrator with Active Directory, with Exchange, with Configuration Manager, with Service Manager, with Ops Manager, and things that you would normally do in those particular applications, you can do from a runbook in Orchestrator. So some of the tasks, and I have a screen here of Orchestrator. Some of the tasks that you can perform in Orchestrator under the system activities, and this is kind of like a little Visio type of, you'll drag a process out to your workspace, and then you would actually configure it. I could do something as simple as monitor a service, and I would just look under my monitoring tab, and I would pull things like monitor a service. I could monitor a processes that are running in the background. I could monitor disk space, the event log, monitor WMI. Under the scheduling, I can check a schedule. I can actually have a task run on a particular schedule. Under the system, I can end a process. I can do a WMI query, restart a system, run a program, save an event log, start or stop a service. Under file management, you can copy a file, delete a file. You can even add content to the file under text file management. You can actually add content to a file. I thought that was really cool. You can monitor a file or a folder. You can encrypt or decrypt files or folders. You can print files automatically. You can send emails. You can send notifications to the event log, to the Orchestrator console. Under your utilities, you can get a value. You can compare a value. You can format dates. You can modify counters. You can query databases under your utilities. And once you add the integration, I just have the integration for Active Directory. With the integration of Active Directory, some of the tasks that I can perform would be I can add a computer to a group. I can add a user to a group. I can create a user, create a group, disable a computer, enable a computer, unlock a user. So some of these tasks that you would do in Active Directory, I can actually have it done automatically in or using Orchestrator. And the more of these integration packs that you add, and you can add an integration pack for Configuration Manager. I can create a collection. I can deploy an application in Configuration Manager. I can deploy an operating system. Under the Ops Manager, I can create alerts. I can close alerts. On the Service Manager, I can open up incidents. I can close incidents. virtual machine manager. You can deploy any templates that you wish. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can actually do with Orchestrator. And it's probably the most powerful of all the tools that are in System Center, but it's also the one that is the least utilized in Central System Center. And it's probably least utilized because a lot of administrators just don't know how to manage and create these particular runbooks. And I'll show you a simple, because I've actually built a couple for you. Here's a simple runbook that monitors a service. When I double click on the object that I pulled out here, the computer that I'm monitoring is London OR1, which is this one, and I'm monitoring the print spooler service. So it's going to be triggered whenever this particular service this action is going to be triggered whenever this service is stopped or paused. And I have it to automatically restart this service. So now, you know, I could have done the same thing in an Ops Manager. I could have created a monitor to monitor a particular service, but I'm just showing you how easily it's done in Orchestrator. And so I want to test every 15 seconds. I just want to check to see if this particular service is running. If it's not running, if it's stopped, then it will restart this service. So pretty much it's already running. Let me just stop it right quick. For it to work, you would just run the run book. So I'm going to run the run book, so it's running now. And I'm going to open up services, and you see my print spooler service has started. So I'm going to stop this print spooler service, and I'm on OR1, and I'm just going to wait. And whenever Orchestrator, the reason I have this failed is because I stopped the run book. So whenever Orchestrator detects that that service has stopped, it'll automatically restart that service, and it'll add a log to the log folder that it was a success. And at any time, I could actually come back over and check this service, do a refresh, and you see that the print spooler service has automatically been restarted. And of course, if I actually checked over here, you see there's a success entry from where this runbook actually restarted this service. That's a simple runbook. I can create more complex runbooks. Let me see the one where monitor the service. There's another one where I'm actually going to, there it is, create a user account. So this one actually creates a user account, adds that user to a group, and it also it does other things than just creating a user account. Because I know you're saying, well, I can just create a user account in Active Directory. You're absolutely correct. But when you're using Orchestrator, you can actually configure some other things. Like whenever I create the user account, I'm going to place the user account in a particular OU. I'm going to give a description, a display name, a first name, the last name, the home directory, and you can add additional components. I'll configure what the email address is going to be, the password, whether the password expires or not. Some optional properties I could do. I could actually even go in and add the department or phone numbers, who the manager is going to be. I can configure all of these components initially. And the only thing that I have to do after I've created those particular components, is it running? Let me run it. Oops, let me stop right quick. After I've configured all of those components, then I can actually open up my my runbook console, the Orchestrator console. And once you open up the Orchestrator console, I'll select the runbook from the console, and I have a runbook task of initialize data. And when I click Start Runbook, the initialized data pulls up this particular screen. All I have to do is just add 3 values, first name, last name, and what that password is going to be. Once I add those values to this particular runbook, and I have no idea if any of you guys are named this, David, last name, oops, can't do that. David Smith with the password, the runbook server that's going to perform this particular runbook. Click start. I know my time is getting over, so I got to hurry. And then if I actually flip over to Active Directory, because it's running now, should be running. If I flip over to Active Directory, and if this doesn't show in time, not only will it actually, and this is one that I did earlier, not only does it create this information in Active Directory, it creates it, it gives a description, the email address is set, the account is actually set as far as the username, the domain that they're going to log into, and any profile. I actually created a home folder. That home folder, all of that information is populated. So instead of manually doing all of this particular or performing this task, I can do it just individually just by running that particular runbook to add those 3 entries in the runbook, or I could have configured like a CSV file to do it automatically. All I would have had to do was just add that particular component to my runbook. Let me see if it actually created right now. Did it? And there he is right there. David Smith was created, and that's the information that was created based on the automation of Orchestrator. As I mentioned, Orchestrator is one of the slickest applications that I have seen, because it is literally the Swiss Army knife of System Center. It can do so much. I talked about the different components that you could do. You can add your configuration manager. Whenever you add configuration manager, some of the things that it could do, it could create a collection, it could deploy an application, deploy a program, deploy software updates. Under data protection manager, you can actually create a program group, a protection group, and you can automatically start or stop and perform recoveries and backups. Under Ops Manager, with Operations Manager, you can create an alert, get a monitor an alert, monitor the state. Under Service Manager, you can create a relationship, an object, change a change template, or create an incident template. And with Virtual Machine Manager, of course, you can create VMs and create disks, user roles, checkpoints, and start and stop VMs. Now, one of the things to do to set this up, you actually have to install the management packs for Orchestrator. There's the Orchestrator Management Pack server, the Runbook server, and the web component. But as I close, one of the neat things that I've done with this Orchestrator, Service Manager, and Ops Manager, I actually created an integration with the 3 to where I had Orchestrator monitoring a service. Whenever that service stopped, it actually opened up an alert in Ops Manager. It also opened up an incident in Service Manager, but I configured that monitor for auto remediation. So whenever it restarted that service, it closed that alert in Operations Manager, and it also closed that incident in Service Manager. So I know I could actually, I tell you I drink the Kool-Aid. I could go on forever about these applications and these integrations. What I would like for you guys to do, just really think about it, and think about what you have. Especially if you've already purchased System Center, you have the power of all of this integration right at your fingertips, and all you have to do is just explore these options, and all of these applications play well with other Microsoft applications and some HP services and applications also. Do you guys have any questions about anything that I've mentioned earlier? Because I'm at the end of my slide. Any questions? And Brittany, I can't see the questions, so if there are, you have to tell me.
That's fine. If anybody does have any questions, there's a message box, and go ahead and type the questions there. While you guys are thinking of your questions, I'm going to let Brian Long, who's an area sales manager here at Quick Start, take over and share his screen and show some of our System Center classes. that we do offer. So while he's doing that, if anybody has any questions, please type them there. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Brittany, and thank you, Jerome, for your time this morning. And there's a lot of information. For anybody to kind of comprehend in 40 minutes, it's a very complex set of products that he's talking about. And so, when you think about what you learned today and maybe your next steps, obviously what we do is training. And these courses range from 3 days to 5 days. So I think we went about 40 minutes there, where we cover these topics over 5 days in most cases. So if you want to extend your learning into some actual classes, do some hands-on work, that's what we provide here at Quick Start. I run the Southern California group, but we have offices all over the country. And so just a few things I want to show you where to go on our site to get some of this information. We do have a very good site. The marketing department does a great job here of kind of organizing the different tidbits of information. One of the things is if you want to do any sort of course preview, that's right here on our homepage. You can attend a class and get a feel for what that experience would be like. Even maybe sit in on one of Jerome's classes for an hour or two. So to specifically look at the System Center classes, just go shop by category, click System Center. And what you get is a bunch of different options and categories off to the left to kind of fine tune what you might be more looking for. But if you scroll down, you'll see our list of courses that are on our schedule currently. We are one of the only providers that has a true guarantee to run schedule. So we don't cancel classes here at Quick Start. Here is a bunch of different options depending on what product, but I'll go ahead and pick the Orchestrator 2012 class. Immediately what it shows you is the price, the course number. Also, if you do have Microsoft vouchers through an enterprise agreement, we do accept those for this class and many of our classes. It's something that Microsoft lets us know what is acceptable or not to accept those vouchers, but we actually list that right here. So this course in particular, you just need 3 vouchers for this course. Also, dates. So if we're trying to plan out what date might work, and what location, just use that little legend here to the right. The real details are down below here. So a description of the course, and this goes for any course that we have on our website, works the same way. What are the objectives of the course? Who's it for? What's the audience? What do you need to know before attending this course? Make sure we don't get in there and it's a little over our head. And then the details of the actual course outline. So we go module by module, and typically it's obviously a lesson lab type of structure. So if you do have additional needs beyond what you learned today, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, and I think we're going to have another 10 minutes here potentially of any additional questions you have for Jerome or myself about classes, about the courses themselves.
Thanks, Brian. That was great. Yeah, we do actually have a couple questions that came in. So there's a question, Jerome. It says, can you address how the product is licensed now? And then Richard also asked about licensing.
Okay, when it comes to licensing, when you purchase System Center, you get there's the standard and the data center license. With standard license, you get two computer license. It could be a virtual or a physical computer. With data center, you can install all the products on 2 virtual or physical box. With data center, you get unlimited server licensing and processor licensing. And then there are some client licensing, like you'll need licensing for your individual agents, for operations manager, and for your configuration manager. But the configuration manager standard licensing already comes with all of the products. But there are just some features that are enabled and not enabled, whether you have the premium client license or the standard client license. So you would have to check with your Microsoft service provider for the actual licensing. But right now, when you purchase the suite, you get all of the products. Whether you buy the standard or the data center, you get all of the products. And Karen had a question about if there are any type of how-tos for Orchestrator. Well, of course, we have a class on Orchestrator coming up on the 19th, February 19th. There's a 3-day class. But as far as books are concerned for Orchestrator, of course, there's SAMS puts out a book called Orchestrator Unleashed. So you can actually get that. That tells you more than you actually need to know about Orchestrator. Or you can actually go out to TechNet. TechNet has some articles about creating runbooks. But there is a phenomenal, and I'm not playing, I'm not saying this just because I'm the instructor of the class, but this 3-day Orchestrator class allows you to like really dive in, and it talks about creating run books, and it's just 3 days creating run books, and the last day of the class you do like a 4-hour lab on product integration. And like maybe the second day of the class, you're doing like a 3-hour lab of just creating run books. And what I like about the labs in this course that we're offering in February, I think we're offering it in February, then and again in March, is the fact that I'll talk about it, we'll do hands-on, and then there are some challenge exercises to where they'll tell you, oh, well, just do this or create this type of run book. And you have to kind of think back over, what we talked about and what we've done in the previous lab to create the run book. So you really get a good knowledge and feel of creating run books. Any other questions? Is Ops 2012 part of the suite for Orchestrator? No, actually, they're all part of System Center. So Ops 2012, Ops Manager, Operations Manager, Configuration Manager, Orchestrator, Virtual Machine Manager, Service Manager. When you purchase the System Center suite, you get all of the products. And so that's what I was talking about. In getting all of these products, a lot of companies are only just using like maybe a few. They're probably implementing Configuration Manager because they've used SMS and Configuration Manager 2003 and Configuration Manager 2007 or SMS 2003, Configuration Manager 2007, or they are using Operations Manager because they used MOMS previously, and so now they've just migrated to Operations Manager 2007. Very rarely are companies using all of the products, and that's where you can you get the full value of purchasing this System Center product by using all of these products and integrating and connecting them together. Can you manage VMware virtual machines? Absolutely. It does allow for, well, when I say manage, you can monitor them. From Operations Manager, you can monitor those VMs if you install the management pack for those, and for Citrix XenWare, you can monitor them. And also, you can even convert those over to Virtual Machine Manager virtuals if you wish to. You can do a physical to virtual or virtual to virtual conversion. System Center R2. Yeah, System Center 2012 R2, that's the latest one that's out there. So could this replace a currently used help desk tracking system, including inventory? Absolutely. And that's where Microsoft is going for. They're like, you're paying, even though this is kind of pricey, if you think about all the other different components, like you may be paying for VMware, you may be paying for another help desk solution, you may be paying for another backup solution, where you actually get all of those components with the System Center product. So absolutely, it could replace your current help desk, and that's the Service Manager part of it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we are offering a Service Manager class in March. So if you're interested in that. Any other questions? Of all the products, and I've supported Configuration Manager since SMS 2.0. So that's the one that I've actually supported the longest, followed by Ops Manager. But the more I have delved into Orchestrator, I am just really, really impressed with this application, and it just leaves me wanting to know more and wanting to use it more in the production environment. And I actually taught the very first Service Manager class that was offered in the U.S. That was back in October of 2010. It was the second in the world and the very first in the US. And this is a product, and the only reason that people are not using it more is not because it's not a great product, it's just the marketing. You know, Microsoft just really didn't push it the way that they should have. But now with these integration packs, they are pushing Service Manager and Orchestrator. Because pretty much Ops Manager and Configuration Manager, they sell themselves. There are no competing products. I mean, like, there are some products that compete with it, but really there aren't any kind of, Microsoft doesn't feel like there are any kind of competing products when it comes to those two. So they are really pushing the other parts of the suite. Questions?
We'll leave it open for another 30 seconds or so to see if anybody else has any other questions. If not, then you guys can always email one of your Quick Start reps or contact Quick Start, and we can get you guys more information on anything you guys have questions about.
Yeah, I hope I was helpful. I had to talk real fast because normally, you know, I would have like 3 or 5 days to talk about these products. But I hope you guys got a feel of what these particular products can do and the integration can do. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to email your account executive.
And I would just like to say as well, we will, obviously we were recording this and post this on our knowledge base site. We've been doing this for quite a while, so we have a lot of other webinars that you may be interested in that are recorded from prior sessions. So there is a lot of those on our knowledge base site, which is knowledge.quickstart.com.
All right. Well, thanks, Jerome, for your time. We really appreciate all the information that you've given to everybody. And Brian, thank you also for talking about Quick Start and showing people how to use our website and all of our System Center classes. And thank you all for joining. That will conclude the webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.